just like Gene and Roy, singing those campfire songs. Oh, I should have been a cowboy. I might have had a sidekick with a funny name, running wild through the hills, chasing Jesse James, ending up on the brink of danger, riding shotgun for the Texas Rangers. No West, young man, haven't you been told California's full of whiskey, women and ghosts sleeping out all night beneath the desert stars, with a dream in my eye and a prayer in my heart. I should have been a cowboy. I should have learned to rope and ride, wearing my six-shooter, riding my pony on a cat and drive, stealing a young girl's hearts, just like Gene and Roy, singing those campfire songs. Oh, I should have been a cowboy. I should have been a cowboy. I should have learned to rope and ride. I'd be wearing my six-shooter, riding my pony on a cat and drive, stealing a young girl's heart, just like Gene and Roy, singing those campfire songs. Oh, I should have been a cowboy. Yeah, I should have been a cowboy. I should have been a cowboy.
Thank you. Please be seated. Thank you for coming. Thank you for being here to support a family that is going through the throes of grief and the loss that they feel. Thank you for being here to support and to care. We're a little bit slower starting only because we're still waiting for somebody whose plane landed 2 hours late. But they will be here shortly and we'll catch up. But we just recognize that we come together here because we want to have that type of support and that care and that nurturing. At a time like this, I like to make mention that we come for various reasons, and three main reasons that I think of. One is because of grief, and we feel a sense of loss, and we feel the pain and the hurt, and we come together in order to help carry that. There's the value of community in bringing us that support and that those hands that just hold us and carry us to the next point. We also come because we want to remember, and we're going to celebrate, and we're going to celebrate Mike well. We're going to hear his stories. I'm one of the last people who gets to know Mike in many ways because I only know him through you and through a very short experience previously. So I get to hear and I get to understand, and it's in these stories and in these memories that we celebrate and we laugh, we cry, we have some parts of us that come out in different ways, and we will have an open mic time as well, and some will be invited to share in that, and you're welcome to be part of that when the time comes. And the third reason we come because we all recognize that there's a frailty in life, and we come here on this day at this time, and we recognize that this is future for all of us. That each one moves in a direction like this, and we look at life seriously. And when we hear Mike's story, we hear who he was and how he lived, we begin to evaluate and examine and ask, am I going the direction I want to go? Is this who I wish to be? And we take this as a time for a little bit of a checkoff list to see, am I going in the right direction? We make changes. And those are important things for us to do at a time like this. It helps us as we move in life and through life. So thank you for coming, for being part of that, and for helping in all of this. And I trust that as we go through this, you are able to even find some of those places for change and growth in your own life as we move forward. I'd like to have a word of prayer. And then we're going to start remembering Mike. I'm going to get Sherry and the kids to come on up and start telling this story. So, Father, we're grateful that we can be here. Thank you for the life of Mike, that as he touched lives around, and so many lives in a room that's full of people. Father, we just pray that you would help us to understand that this is the type of opportunity we have in order to see are we touching lives in the same way? Thank you for who Mike was, and as we hear his stories, I pray that you would bring comfort and care, that this would be a time for bringing healing and some closure and all that needs to happen for the whole family. Pray for Sherry as she goes through this time. You would just allow her that ability to find that freedom to trust you in all of this. We just thank you for this, Father. In Christ, our precious Savior's name, amen. Sherry, coming up together.
I have to be a perfectionist, sorry.
Want to move him too?
No, that's fine.
Okay.
Well, looking around this room, all I can say is, wow, a lot of people. Thank you all for coming. What can you say when you lose your best friend? They are gone and you are left behind to get used to living a different life, if that is even possible. That is what happened here on Sunday, January the 14th, when we had to take Mike to the hospital for what we thought was the stomach flu. In the end, it turned out to be the perfect storm of things going wrong, with a severe infection that his heart was unable to handle. He worked hard to try to stay with us, but it was not to be. We are all heartbroken and devastated by the passing of our Mike, our dad, our papa, our loved one, and our friend. I have had the most difficult time writing this. Everything that I've written so far just sounds like a laundry list. He was so busy doing so many things, he rarely took time to stand still, unless he was staring at a campfire. We all have our memories of Mike. He was larger than life, quick-witted, and always trying to bring humor and/or sarcasm to the situation. He was always up for fun and games and a good laugh, but most of all, you only know a few things about him, so I would like to talk about some things that you may not know. Well, in general, Mike's life was about family, friends, and freedom. I think that he got this from his childhood. Mike was born October 26, 1958 in Vancouver. He was the second child and oldest son with his two sisters, Nancy and Susan, and his brother Alan. His dad was a member of the the Royal Canadian Air Force. And the family moved a lot. So he had to rely on his family to be his friends. And in turn, he and his family had to rely on their friends to be their family. The kids grew up with many aunts and uncles that were the friends of their parents, and that has followed Mike his whole life. Many of you friends here today are part of Mike's family, and all you nieces and nephews and in-laws are part of his friends. So Mike's family left Sea Island in the early 1960s, and they went to Goose Bay, Labrador, then Cold Lake, Alberta. Soon they were off to Europe and lived in France and Belgium and Lahr, Germany, where the family got to spend time with their Oma. Their final posting was to Comox, and when his dad left the service, they moved to Port Hardy. Mike did his grade 12 at Nice and graduated in 1976. He went to UBC in 1977, taking general arts courses and thinking that he would like to be a social worker. He lived in the Place Vanier dorms, and that is where we met in February of 1978. We were married a year later in June of '79. We would have celebrated our 45th anniversary this June. We took a 2-month honeymoon and drove all the way to Cape Breton and back. It was during this time that we found out we were expecting our first child. Over the years, we were blessed with 4 children, Nikki, Amber, Evan, and Gareth. But were left with profound heartbreak when Nikki had a medical incident at 10 weeks of age and lived the rest of her life with cerebral palsy and epilepsy. She lived at home with us till she was 12 and moved to Sunny Hill in Vancouver and then to Grant East, a group home in Abbotsford. She was in and out of hospitals her whole life and passed away at the age of 36 in December of 2016. Her passing left a hole in all of our hearts. Mike was thrilled to be a dad and did all that he could to drive us all crazy. Well, particularly myself, as he especially loved to encourage the kids to slurp their Jell-O through their straws at Uncle Willie's. He also loved taking them for rides on his motorbike around our big yard and called himself the Port Kells Motorbike Gang. There were walks and hikes up Golden Years and, of course, camping trips in the summer, along with the usual birthday parties, Halloween, Easters, and Christmases. Over the years, the kids played soccer and softball, and Mike would help coach. There were brownies and pathfinders, scouts and cubs, and since Mike wanted to make sure that the boys were safe, he joined as a leader and became Scouter Mike. Truly, he became a scout leader just so he could go camping more often. Mike had a strong work ethic, which he got from his parents. He worked at various jobs over the years and was sometimes working 3 jobs at a time. He was a deckhand one summer on a fishing boat, plying the waters between the Queen Charlotte's and Prince Rupert. Another summer, he worked for a Marineways repairing fishing boats. Pretty good for a slapdabber. Anyways, he also worked at Island Copper on the labor crew and also drove the huge electro-haul trucks. He learned how to lay carpets and lino and did that on and off for about 10 years. He worked at a couple of warehouses. He was a volunteer fireman at Hall 7 in Port Kells. And in 1985, he was hired in the Fire and Safety Department at Expo 86 and worked there full-time during the construction and part-time during the fair. Then in the spring of 1986, Mike's buddy at Expo, Brad Tompkins, told him that they were hiring at Vancouver Pretrial. So they both went and applied. Now, Mike had no idea about corrections, but he let his personality shine through for his role play in his interview. They told him to get a client, I think that's what they call them now, out of the cell. And Mike, who was not really sure how to do that, tried talking to the client, but of course that was not going to work. And then he was told that he had to go into the cell and that he was allowed to ask one of them to assist him. So he asked one of the interviewers to help him out. And when they said he would, he told that person to go into the cell first. Well, that cracked them all up. Mike was hired, and the rest, as they say, is history. So, some of you may remember Brad Tompkins, as he and Mike were in the same hiring class. Mike worked in BC Corrections for 30 years. Over that time, he worked at Vancouver, but he also worked at Fraser Regional, as well as Surrey and North Fraser pretrials. He worked in various positions, including as a supervisor in various areas, and he retired in 2016. After he moved to Mission, Mike got a part-time job with both the RCMP lockup in Mission, working on and off from about 1995 to 2022. Then in 2003, he started working part-time at the Ridge Meadows lockup as well, and for the past 7 years has been working there full-time. He was just recognized for 20 years of service working with them this past December. For those of you working with Mike, you know that he was quite the jokester and that he loved to pull pranks. If you were ever pranked by Mike, you were loved. Mike faced a potential life-changing event back in June of 1990. He had a motorcycle accident on his way home from work at Vancouver Pretrial. He ended up in Burnaby General Hospital with a shattered leg. And when I arrived there, I was told that if they stayed at Burnaby General, that they would amputate his leg. But that if we went to VGH, that they might be able to save it. So I told them that we were going to VGH. After a 7-hour surgery, they were able to save his leg. Mike was off work for about 6 months and then worked in control for a year. His leg healed up so well that he was able to get the plate and screws removed. He asked the doctor what his limitations would be now. And the doctor said that just pretend you're overweight and out of shape and you can do whatever you want. Let's see, sorry, I'm lost here. So he made sure that he was out there mountain biking, canoeing, kayaking, playing hockey, and hiking every chance he could. The only problem that he had with his knee after that was the pain. That followed him every day, but it did not slow him down. In 2005, our grandchildren started to arrive. How could we be old enough to be grandparents? We now have 4 grandkids, Kiana, Mason, Riker, and Abigail, ranging in age from 18 to 5. Their papa loved them dearly. He often said that he was a better papa than a dad. Of course, he had them out camping as often as he could, and there was always pumpkins to carve and Easter eggs to color. And when we could not take them to see Santa at the mall in 2020, Mike got a Santa suit and became the jolly old elf himself. He was proud to see Kiana graduate in June, to play Dungeons and Dragons with Mason, as well as see Riker play soccer and watch Abigail at her very first Christmas concert this past December. Mike liked cars. He couldn't fix them, but he liked them. We had many cars over the years, including a Bug, a Blazer, a Jeep, a couple of motorbikes, and a Stang. Although not a car, we also had a 1987 RV until this past July, when we lost it in a fire at the side of the highway near the Lake of the Woods. We watched it burn to the ground in a matter of minutes. Mike was devastated. All his camping treasures were in that RV. And just FYI, we went home and bought a tent and some more camping gear, and we made it to our family reunion, because that is what family is about. Mike never missed a family reunion. Traveling was something that Mike and I loved to do. Mike would always say that since I would sacrifice going camping with him, that he would sacrifice and go on a cruise with me. Over our 45 years together, we have been to 5 continents, 40 countries, 9 provinces, 22 states, and multiple cruises, including 2 transatlantic crossings and traversing the Panama Canal. Mike loved to learn. He liked to do research. He loved to soak in the history when we traveled, especially when he knew he was walking in the footsteps of famous people like Mark Antony and Cleopatra when we were in Ephesus. He was so excited to go ziplining in Costa Rica, snorkeling in the Bahamas, Hawaii, and St. Kitts, checking out the gladiator area at the Colosseum in Rome, and getting to see a real Premier League soccer match. He had a long list of things that he was so happy that he got to do. So we have talked about family, and we have talked about friends. So now, this is where the freedom part comes in. What is Mike's version of freedom? The freedom to live on his terms. The freedom to have your own opinions. And the freedom to live life to the fullest. I think Mike was a wee bit of a rebel. Someone who was not afraid to stand up and be counted for good, for making things better, or trying to make things better, and keeping the good thing, and also keeping the good things from being destroyed by the powers that be. He was a passionate man with deep convictions about what was right and fair and what was just plain wrong. He would always stand up for the underdog, and he would go out of his way to help others. He was generous to a fault and helped out many people over the years. His convictions would prevent him from moving forward at times, but he was okay with that because he felt that he had made the right choices. He had his values, and he stuck to them. So this is what I'm going to say about my best friend. I could go on and on and on, but there are just so many things that I could say. But in these few words, that was our Mike, our dad, our papa, our loved one, our friend. And so I will close in saying, Dear Lord, take back the soul of Michael James Smart, who you have shared with us. He brought us joy, and we loved him well.
Thank you, Sherry. You did that well. You spoke well for the family. I don't think anybody else is coming up to say from the children. They want to come on up? Okay. Okay, come on up.
I just wanted to say that my papa, he was very charming. That's why there's so many people here today. I remember our camping trips, and we always loved to do tie-dye. And so we always made tie-dye shirts each trip. It was like kind of like a new tradition, kind of. And I remember one time he asked me to tie-dye something for him, and I felt so special because I was for him as far as the RV, the Canadian flag for him. So it's pretty great. Another memory that I have is when we would go on fishing derbies, and we'd always take the red Jeep that you see. And it was really fun. He would always pretend that we were lost and that we didn't know where anybody was or anything was, but then we always made it there. I always remember like him trying the best that he can, trying to be a good father figure because I didn't have one. So he's very, very, very good papa, and I miss him a lot. So thank you. Thank you.
So there's a lot of stories that you could tell about Dad, from coercing people in jail cells with bananas and, transvestites sleeping out of the back of the van. But he used to take us bike riding around Barnston Island, and we had a dog. Her name was Sasha, and we were little. And she was jumping in the grass, and you could see her over the grass and whatever, and then she was just gone. And we went and looked, and she had fallen down about 7 feet onto this little, maybe 2 foot wide space on the side of the river. And she tried to climb up, and she just couldn't do it. Anyway, he lowered Gareth down by his feet down this embankment, and Evan and I each had a foot. But if they went, we were all going. We were all going in the river. Anyway, we wound up getting Sasha back, and it was good. But he was always, getting into mucks and messes and figuring out fun ways to get out of them. So, and he was a very good papa, and they all loved him. So. Anyway, that's it. That's me.
Well, for starters, thank you all for being here. There's so many people. It's very overwhelming. My dad was smart. He liked Red Dwarf, traveling with my mom, history, chess, knickknacks, knives, and James Bond. I have a distinct blessing that I have heard over and over and over again, and I will hear for the rest of my life, that I look like him and I sound like him on the phone. So thankfully he was a handsome man. My dad and I did not always see eye to eye. I suppose teenagers are just inherently tough. But despite any of that, and looking back, I believe that he did the best that he could. To my memory, he never missed a play, concert, he never missed a play, concert, or any other major life event. He participated as my scout leader, coach, and advocate when I needed it. Over my life, he worked hard to be able to help me, and unfortunately, I've needed a lot of help. He made some jokes at my expense, but he never complained, and he loved his family. He was the first to show up, last to leave. He did what he needed to do to get it done, and he slap-dabbed the rest. I have seen him on several occasions run into people that he knew from years ago, and he would just help them on the street randomly. They were having hard times, and he would just give them whatever he had in his pocket. He did all of this without asking for it to be paid back or for favors in return. There are lots of people here today, which shows the impact that he had on this world. And all of you fit into 3 categories, like my mom said. Family, friends, and freedom. To the camping buddies, thank you. You made his outdoor downtime the best that it could have been. To the RCMP and Corrections crowd, I may not know who you are, but I have probably heard a story about you. He remembered all of your names first and last, and would talk about you often. There are lots of awesome and funny stories that he participated in during his time in corrections. He was a showman, and you made him feel important. To the Freedom crowd, this is a relatively new aspect of his latter years, but he loved being out there rallying. He was a man that lived on his own terms, and you gave him an outlet for those terms. To the family, he loved his family. Every trip, reunion, and visit, you helped make his life special. Over the last few years, I have personally been in an ongoing low, personally and health-wise. And even though Dad and I rarely spoke about these things in any depth, he was a very stoic man. The last email he sent me was a link to a YouTube video called The 7 Most Famous Quotes of All Time. All of them are quotes that are meant to try and help me put things into perspective. And I'll read a couple of them just so you understand the gist of it. If life were predictable, it would cease to be life and would be without flavor. When you reach the end of your rope, tie a knot in it and hang on. In the end, it is not the years in your life that count. It is the life in your years. Now, understand that he did not send me emails every day. He might have sent me 4 emails in my life. And that happened to be the last one. And to that end, he put things into perspective for me. And I'm going to share 2 short stories here about times that he put things into perspective. So, there was a time that it was my brother's birthday. His birthday was at the Giggle Dam. It's a comedy club in Poco. And we were heading through Maple Ridge. And we got stuck in traffic. And you could see him as he was trying to navigate through Maple Ridge to get there. He liked to be early. You could see him get visibly frustrated as he was driving because he wanted to be on time. And then eventually he turned on the radio. And on the radio it said that there was a car accident. A motorcyclist had been sideswiped by a truck and the motorcyclist had passed away. And so he turned off the radio and you could see him just kind of relax. And all he said was, "Someone's having a worse day than we are." We made it to the comedy club, everything was fine. And that one stuck with me for a long time. Secondly, I'm diabetic. When I was first diagnosed with my diabetes, I kind of hit a denial wall, and he would give me my injections. Eventually, after a few days, he said, "I'm going out. If you don't give yourself your shot, you're going to die." I've given myself my shot ever since. But those are the things that he would do to put things into perspective. In closing, as I said, Dad was smart. He could make a room laugh, he could make a room cry, and he could even make a room believe that he could turn invisible if everyone closed their eyes. I miss my dad.
Done. How about if we ask the sisters and the brother if they want to say anything? Oh, there they are. You've got to look the right direction. Yeah, oh no, we're here.
Good afternoon, everyone. I wish I wasn't here. I'm 18, sorry. Mike was my younger brother, as these guys are all. I can't remember a day of my life without him. I'm 18 months older, but you know, as Sherry said, we grew up in a military family and we moved a lot. So we were each other's best friends. Mike was always an adventurer. Mom said that when he was 1, she found him on top of the fridge. That was his first adventure. When we lived in Germany, he would grab the younger brother here, and he was about 10, so you were about 7, and they would go for 4- and 5-hour hikes. Those were in the days where you just had to be home when it was supper time. See you later, right? I went with them once, and it was like, holy mackerel, and I never went again. I think Susie came too, but it was like, what an adventure those guys did, at least once a month. The adventures never stopped. He loved hiking and camping and traveling the world with Sherry. As siblings, Mike and I never always agreed on everything, but that's just the way it is. I found ways to get back at him. When we were in high school, I'm just that 1 year ahead, and I'm in grade 12 and he's 11, and he would walk by and he would not acknowledge me. Well, he would. He'd kind of look at the side and go like this, but nobody knew that we were related. So one day he really made me angry, and I found his favorite shirt and I wore it to school. And he never wore that shirt again. I have to say that there is a big hole in our family where he should be, and we will miss him. And I just found a poem I would like to read. May you rest now in peace. Your journey here is over, and you toiled so very hard, you deserve that precious gift. May you sleep now so sweetly, the slumber of the loved. Your life will be remembered. You need not worry for that. May you pass now with permission. You tried so hard to hold. It's not your weight to care for those who stay behind. May you rest now at last. Your time is right for crossing. You gave all to life, and for that you will live on. May you sleep now in peace till eternity awakes you. May the love we still have for you be the pillow for your head. And that's by Donna Ashworth. So we will miss Mike. Mike.
Hello, everyone. Like Gareth says, and Sherry, wow, it's amazing seeing you all here. It really is a tribute to my brother. There's something I have to share with my sisters quickly is, sorry, but I was the favorite brother. Mike included me in so many things. When I first moved to Vancouver, I was kind of lost, and I ended up on their trailer. They had 4 kids in the house. I got the couch. I had to work, help them lay carpet to pay for my room and board. The kids would wake up in the morning and jump all over me. It was the best time ever. I was part of that motorcycle gang. It was incredible. As we moved on in our life, my brother included me in so many of his activities, and all those activities included being with his friends, corrections officers. I did the West Coast Trail with all his friends, the correction officers, Powell River Lake Chain with all his friends, floor hockey with corrections officers. I'll never forget a game. We played against the RCMP. It was a bloodbath. Mike was the best man at my wedding, and he did the rehearsals with us and had to go up and do our vows, and I had to kneel, and on the bottom of my shoes was taped, "Help me." Confronting the loss of my brother is a challenge. His absence leaves a void that can never be really fulfilled. As I say goodbye to Mike, I do it with a heavy heart, but also a great appreciation for the time I had with him. Rest in peace, Mike.
When I was thinking about what to say about my brother, random words kept popping into my head. He was a husband, a father, grandfather, son, son-in-law, brother, brother-in-law, uncle, cousin, and a friend. He was funny, smart, feisty, fierce, sassy, sarcastic, could be challenging. He was a great storyteller. He could maim you 1,000 different ways with his baby finger, and he was not afraid to show you his new moves. He was a camper, a hiker, a barbecue chef. He was loyal and a true Canadian patriot. He was tough, generous, a slapdabber, which is a name that our mom gave him when he came up once to help her around the house. He was adventurous, mischievous, a motorcycle rider, Mustang driver, and a super prankster, always looking for a prank that he could pull on somebody. Mike was one of my favorite people on this planet, and I truly can't imagine my life without him. But here we are. Goodbye may seem forever, farewell is like the end, but in my heart's memory, you will always stay, my friend. And that's from the movie. What's that movie? I can't remember. But anyway, it's from a movie. I didn't write that. Thank you.
So now we have to
Close the gap, because this is where he should be.
thank you.
Thanks.
Soon we'll give you opportunity to come and share some of your stories. We'll take some time for that. There's a prayer that I was asked to read. It's a Scottish prayer, and I should be reading in a Scottish accent, but that would just not work well. So let me read this Scottish prayer. Lord of life and death, you are with us in the daylight and the dark. As this our brother Michael goes from us, may your love be with him in the shadow and lead him to your presence where the life that began with you is sustained forever. Amen. A prayer for Mike. Now here's opportunity for you, and I understand that there's one person who's asked to be first, Bob Shaland has asked to be first, so if he's out here somewhere, I don't know who, oh, there he is. Hello, come on up. Come on up and share. I have two rules for this sharing time, very simple ones. One is they're going to be about Mike and not about something strange and unusual. And
can't sell anything.
No, you can't sell anything. And the other is if it goes quiet for 10 seconds, we're done. So, okay. So don't pause too long.
Okay. I just figured out this speech, and I worked on it, and I worked on it, and I took the dog for a walk, and I studied it, and I did this, and I did that, and I had it pat, and I knew exactly what to say. And then I stand in front of you, and all I need now is the toilet. But I will start with two things. Number one, Sherry and family, thank you for allowing me to come up here. It's a privilege. Number two, and I know I speak for everybody here when I say, thank you for sharing Mike with us for so many years. I have two short stories to tell. One will show Mike his humour, and one will show the true measure of the man. Then I'd like to talk about the future of Mike. There's two short stories. One takes place in Vancouver pre-trial. This is the funny one. And when all the inmates go to court in the morning, they come back in the evening, and we place them in the cells and we book them in. In amongst all that group, there's the odd new inmate, which we call a fish, because he's just been caught in the net. And on this day, we had a real fish. And Mike was in charge of opening and closing all the doors. So we start, all the inmates are locked up, and we call one out, and all of a sudden there's a, yeah, what do you want? I want to talk to my mum. She doesn't know I'm in prison. Yes, she does. How does she know? She's the one that called the police. And a few minutes later, now what do you want? I want to phone my girlfriend because she doesn't know I'm in prison. Yes, she does. How does she know? Well, she's the one that told the police where you were hiding. So this went on for a few times. And finally, Mike, can you deal with this? So Mike goes down to the cell, and there's about 15, 20 inmates in there. And he opens the door and he says, okay, what's your problem? And the guy goes, yeah. And Mike says, well, look, he says, in a minute, what's going to happen, you're going to go out there, they're going to book you in, you go upstairs, and there's a big phone there, and you can use it as much as you want. He said, I can't do anything for you at all. The only thing I can give you is a hug if you want a hug. Yeah, I'll have a hug. And Mike goes up and gives him a hug. And there's about 20 inmates in there who have been in prison for many years, and they're going, oh, no. No. And, of course, they're using that prison language, oh, gosh, and oh, darn. But anyway, that was, and the guy never spoke anymore. So now a story to tell Mike as I measured him as a man. And I don't know if he did this every month or if it was a week, but the week before Christmas, Mike would go to the bank and get a wad of $5 bills. And he'd park his car far enough away so that he could walk to work. And every homeless person he saw, he'd give them $5, handshake, and wish them Merry Christmas. And I'd like to quell a rumor that went around at that time. It was said that I snuck behind Mike and I would take these $5 bills off. It's not true. Anyway, this one, I'm going to try and get through it because I want to do this for the family. I want to tell you the future that Mike has. And it started off, when Mike passed, we have a celebration of life. And everybody here comes in here and we tell our stories and we talk about the past. And we say this and we say that, we laugh, we cry, and then we move on. Well, Mike has a future. And that future started when Mike passed. And he set down his keys. And the moment he left those keys, he heard a sound and he heard a voice. And he heard, "Dad?" And Mike turned around and there was this little beautiful girl looking at him. And Mike said, "Nicky?" And Nicky smiled at him and she threw him down a backpack. She said, "Put that on, get off your ass, we got places to go." And they held hands and they climbed mountains, they skied slopes, they swam in the waters and they talked to the orcas. They held on to the eagle's wings and they flew through canyons and they flew over mountaintops and they flew clouds. And all the while they were doing this, they were laughing and they shared that and they shared their stories and they shared their love. And every now and then, Mike and Nicky would stop and they would turn just for a moment and then they would move on because they knew that there was a day that was going to come. When? Only God would know that day. But when it came, Mike would turn around and his heart would be heavy. There'd be tears in his eyes and that big smile only Mike could give you. And he would turn and say, "Hello." And Nicky would run. She would run down the hill and she would laugh and she would cry. And she would have her arms open like that, knowing she was going to get this biggest hug of all time. And when she had that hug, she would turn around and she would hold both the hands and she'd say, "Get off your ass, we got things to do." And a little time later, Mike heard another sound. And it was a crash and it was a bang. And Mike turned around and went, "Oh shit, how did you get in here?" Thank you.
Are there others who have something to share? Yep, come on up. Okay, come on up.
I tried to thin it down before I passed.
Yeah. We'll pull you off. Introduce yourself.
Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you. Thanks, everyone, for being here. This is my first time speaking at a celebration, and I really felt I had to today for Mike. I knew it was going to be a big crowd, too, but that's the community he put around him. It's large because he was a great guy. My name's Layla, and I've been a guard for the RCMP for 20 years with Mike. And I knew Mike before I knew Mike, because he also guarded with my mom, Karen. I'll paint you a picture of my mom. She was old school. She was outspoken. She was brash. And her first language was profanity, which she was fluent in. But boy, she adored Mike. And Sherry has advised me that Mike really liked my mom too. They became friends over the years. When Mom retired as a police guard In 2004, I stepped into her shoes, working at Mission Detachment with Mikey as well. It was a big learning curve, and it was a tough act to follow. But Mom gave me some great insights, and one of the best was, if in doubt, you can always ask Mike Smart. She told me, number 1, he was kind. Number 2, he was a devoted family man. Number 3, he was an excellent guard with lots of experience, and that Mike always did things the right way. And lastly, and more importantly, she said he was a very nice man. And that to me was a real head turner, because those weren't words my mom said about many people very often. And Mike was kind. He would literally advise me how to get home at night, at midnight, when the roads were bad and there was water everywhere. He'd say, "Your car's lower than mine. I'm in the truck, so take this lane, avoid the puddles, and whatever you do, call me when you get home so I don't worry all night." Because Mike cared about his colleagues, off and on the job. Mike was encouraging. He would always notice when you took on an extra task and give you big compliments. We appreciated that. And Mike and I always showed up early for turnover, because we weren't just doing guard turnover. We would have a visit and we would talk about the good stuff, which is you guys. It was always about our families, our kids' jobs, their kids, upcoming events, dinners, traveling. Camping. Oh, the camping stories with Sherry, his beloved corrections buddies, and the kids. He'd talk about how hard it was booking new spots to go to and how he was up at 3 in the morning trying to book. Pardon my sniffles. He'd talk about the next rally they were attending, him and Sherry, where the next cruise was going to be in Debbie Mac's convertible in the Mustang, and the house and yard projects, the never-ending house and yard projects. I guess he was slapdash, but he tried. I didn't know that. He talked about getting Sherry a new scooter, and he was tickled pink because now she could come camping more often. And he told me about their adventure picking up in Vancouver, downtown East Side, and how it had changed since he worked down there. And he was relieved when he saved it in the RV fire. But he was so sad he lost his Hawaiian shirt collection. Of course, I hit my husband up that night when I got home, and I said, "You have to donate me a Hawaiian shirt for Mikey." So I was working in Mission the next week. I had hung it on Mike's locker, and he sent me a nice email. It was so sweet, thanking me for this shirt. He loved it, of course, and with an ending of Mikey likey. That made my day. He mentioned going to the island for his mom's celebration of life, and what a great time it was with the family. Sherry, Nikki, Amber, Evan, and Gareth. Mike's face lit up when he talked about you and your kids. Riker, Mason, Kiana, and Abigail, who is a Christmas baby. He was so proud of you all and how hard you worked and what great jobs you did. And you were the stuff that counts. In December, my last email from Mike, subject, Merry Christmas, December 23rd. Merry Christmas, Layla. Have not seen you in a while. And note that you have not taken any shifts this month or next. I had, of course, but he missed it. Hope everything is okay. Sherry and I are as busy as can be with holidays and the kids, etc. But it is a good kind of busy. All the best to you for the new year as well, Mike. Signed, Mike Smart, Custodial Guard Extraordinaire. And he was an excellent guard. He was the custodial guard extraordinaire. He had a storied career all over the Lower Mainland, as you've heard. There was some places I didn't know he worked, so he pretty much worked everywhere. And if you got Mike as your trainer as a newbie in this industry, you'd won the lottery. Mike was a best practice trainer and CYA. He was a great mentor, extremely knowledgeable, and he had a hard work ethic. He didn't get rattled no matter what mayhem was occurring that you were walking into. He was solid, never ever judgmental, and he kept us all safer in our environment. And he was fair. He had a high standard for himself, and thus he expected it from you. He was respectful and respected because he was honest. And if you missed something, or something was not right, he would quietly pull you aside and explain his concern, respectfully, with a, "Hey, listen, I noticed this, and if you weren't aware, or you didn't know, or you didn't understand, I can always show you how, because I have a certain expectation." And you always wanted to meet Mike's expectations. So leave that microwave clean, guys, because you know who you are. And don't mess with Mike's ice cube trays. Leave them full. Whether you made an ice pack or not, nobody cares. Mike always chewed ice, and that's probably what kept him so cool on the job. It was always a relief to follow him on the floor, because as Mom said, he always did things the right way. And that's the reason why everyone liked Mike. He made it easier for us all, and he was fun. My mom never warned me what a prankster he was. He was first class. He could fabricate a story with the straightest face, explaining some imminent disaster heading your way, directly your way, pulling your leg, stringing you along, hook, line, and sinker. And as your face fell and your eyes widened, he would tip his head back and start laughing with it. "Just kidding." And he would look so proud of himself as he watched you deflate from horror. This sounds familiar, doesn't it, guys? And he played games. One of his favorites was hide and seek with the stapler on the traffic cops who were doing breathalyzers, because they had the most paperwork to serve, of course. And somehow the stapler would jump from the stapler drawer, clearly marked, to some random corner in the building. I found it up on a shelf one day, and he explained his shenanigans, stating, "I should do it too." And he showed me all the spots where he had put it, so don't put it there, hide it somewhere new. And I haven't done it yet. Or he would cut apart, thanks Debbie Mack for this one, or he would cut apart a Smarties box and then wear the logo as his name tag. I didn't see that one. I wish I would have seen that one. One day he was guarding contractors in the Sally Port as they power washed it, so of course he stuck a hard at work sign on his chair as he read on his iPad. And then there were the signs. No wall was safe. We got a new pegboard in the guard room, and it said, "Bang your head here," but the sign was 7 feet up. Year two of jail and COVID, and the jail became a courthouse. We were now a jail and a courthouse, so never-ending work. It was nonstop, bail hearings. It was trying. Suddenly, a sign appeared on the paper towel holder in the guard washroom. "Notice, employees must stop crying before returning to work." Someone wrote on it, "No way." When management would add the standard how to use the facilities correctly sign in the lavatory, Mike would counter with a Darth Vader sitting on the throne using it, and it would say, "Use the force." You guys better not take that down. When we got a new important notice board in the guard room, a sign appeared, of course, and it said, "This notice is to inform you that you are being given notice. If you feel this is an error, take no notice." In the kitchen, there's one spot where there's some chips in the wall. Someone drew a happy face peeking out and over it. Don't know who that was, but yeah, nowhere was safe. And I'm sure you can all add to these stories, so please take a moment and add any stories you have experienced with Mike in the book that's in the foyer. I'd love for the family to be able to read them all and laugh, because I know Mike would prefer us all laughing, even though we lost him far too soon and way too quickly. Mike had a great saying, "Don't put too many heavy rocks in your backpack. It'll weigh on your shoulders, hurt your back, and drag you down." So on that note, if you do a cheers to Mike in his honor, focus on the ice cubes in the cup, chew them up, keep smiling. And like a good compass, he always kept us pointing in the right direction. He kept us safer and more lighthearted, and he cared for all his colleagues in and off the job. So in closing, I just want to say thank you to the whole Smart family for sharing him so graciously with all these over all these years, because he really was a very nice man. Thank you.
Thank you, Leila. Are there others that would have something?
Wow, so many people that knew Mike. For those that don't know me, my name is George. I was the unofficial son, the kid down the street that got to come over and play with Evan all the time. And I'd just like to share with you guys the love that that man shared with me. I've never been a member of the family. I'm just a friend. But Mike loved me like one of his own. And I cannot tell you guys how many times he'd get me with a joke or a rib, and then he would go, "Ha! That's how you know I love you." You know, and I had so many good memories, so many. You know, from him picking us up, Evan and I up, taking us to our baseball games, to being our coach, to soccer practices, you know, all of the movie nights that we'd go to the movie, pick movies out and come back and watch movies, playing video games with us in our teen years. But the couple stories I want to share that really, really have always been with me my whole life. And the first one was a funny one. Mike liked to eat Hawkins cheesies and have Pepsi. And when they moved to the house in Mission, he had his chair. His chair was in the living room where the TV was, and he had a little nightstand, and he'd leave the cheesy bag open. Now, I mean, I've known this family for years, and when I was a kid, when we lived in that house, I would sleep over. Mike would go to bed or whatever, and I'd get up to use the washroom, and I'd handful of cheesies. Now, this went on for years. I thought that I was getting away with something. Like, I thought no one knew about it. Fast forward to I'm in my 20s, and we're in the kitchen, and Mike walks up and goes, "So how are all those cheesies?" What cheesies? But he always knew. He knew that that was me doing it, and he wasn't mad. He wasn't mad. He gave me a smile and a laugh, and he said, "You owe me a bag of cheesies, kid." And that's how Mike was with me all the time, always loving, always caring, always laughing with me all the time. And I always appreciated that because, again, he treated me like I was one of his own. And I always felt that love. Every time I walked into that door, it didn't matter if I had been there the day before or if it had been a couple of years. Mike always made me feel welcome every time I came into the house. And the last story I want to share was, there was a time in my life when I was really struggling. I was having a really hard time. And I was at the Safeway in Mission. And I just kind of embarrassed myself in public and made myself a fool out of myself. And then Impala came down into the parking lot. And Mike rolled the window down and said, "Get in." And I was 20 or 21 and angry and mad. But I knew, get in. I got in the car. And I honestly can't tell you where we drove. I don't remember how long it had been. And I was angry and mad and having Harry in the car, and Mike just drove and listened. And it felt like forever. And he stopped the car, and these words have never left me. He said, "George," he said, "you're going to be okay. We love you. We care about you. Don't ever forget that. You'll always be welcome here with us, with the family. And know that if ever you need to talk, you can come see me anytime." And that's always stuck with me, because I always knew that no matter what, even if I was away for a while, that if I had to, I knew I could pick up the phone and I could call and say, "Hey, I need to talk." And there would always be, Mike would listen if I needed to. And I miss him immensely. I don't know that I've got enough words to describe how much that man meant to me, because I've known him since I was 5 years old. And I'm not big on goodbyes. I hate the word goodbye, but thank you, Mike, for everything you gave me. Thank you for the love you shared with me. I'll see you later.
I was one of the few people that Mike took under his wing as a camping buddy. There's a number of us. We usually get out at least twice a year, sometimes more. We've done trips to the Bower and Lakes and Desolation Sound, and each one was special in its own way. So there's so many memories, and I'm sure he shared most of them with Sherry and his family. He was larger than life, but we were fortunate that we had him in his down times when he could truly relax and tell us stories of his life, because my friend has been everywhere, it seems. On his fridge, he used to, him and Sherry would put, there was a map of the world, and there would be little tacks where they've been, and I don't think there was a continent that didn't have a tack in it. And those stories were precious in their own way. But we had lots of adventures too, and as his camping buddies, we were able to it was so special. But I have only one story that I want to bring up, because there's just so many that I could keep going on. But this one is just between me and him. And we were canoeing the Bower and Lakes, and it was just miserable weather. As a matter of fact, when we got started, it was raining very hard, and he turns to both me and Bert and says, I don't think it can rain any harder than this." Well, it did. And so partway through the trip, Mike, he did the whole trip in bare feet. I don't know why, but we have pictures of him, and he never had shoes on. But they went down, there was a river there that was very hard to navigate, but I had an excellent helmsman with Bert. He showed me where to go, and I was able to, steer. He was steering the canoe, and I was paddling for all I had to get around deadheads and whatever. Well, unfortunately, Mike, when he was going down the river, his brother-in-law was with him, and I forget his name, unfortunately. But anyway, he was with him, and he lost his paddle up at as they started. So it was up to Mike to try to steer this thing through. Well, they didn't do so great. They hit a deadhead, and I think they both had to get out to get the canoe off of the log that they were on. And to make a long story short, they were completely soaked, and it was cold, and so we go into camp, and Mike is beyond cold. He's actually he's got hypothermia, so we get him all set up, get his tent up, and he gets into his sleeping bag, and he couldn't get warm. It just wasn't happening. So you're out in the middle of nowhere, and you know what has to be done. So I said to Mike, I said, hey, listen, Mike, it's going to get cold just for a minute, but I'm going to put 2 sleeping bags together, and then we're going to strip down, and we'll go back to back, and I'll get warmth into you. And so there was a hesitation there for a second, and then Mike hadn't been talking or anything, hardly moving, and I hear through chattering teeth, he goes, I'd rather die first. In the meantime, I didn't know, but Bert, his specialty is getting fires going in the worst of conditions. I think he could get a fire going in the middle of a lake. And it wasn't long before he had this huge bonfire going, and all of us, except for Mike, who was trying to get warm in front of the fire, looked for wood, and I don't think there was a piece of wood within a mile when we were done. And yeah, so Mike showed his resolution in that, yeah, he would have rather died. But all of us saw him in his most quiet moments, and also in his joking, and we all were pranked many times. I just love that man, always will, and there's a huge hole in my heart that will never be filled. Thank you.
Have to let the police come up.
That light is really bright. Hello, my name is Adam Gander. I'm the acting officer in charge of Ridge Meadows Detachment. I didn't know Mike as well as many of you, but I've learned a lot this afternoon, and I wanted to share. The first time I met Mike was 2019. I had just done 7 years in the homicide team, and it was my first day putting the uniform back on, and went down to cells to talk to Mike. And he said, well, where are you coming from? You're new here. I'm a staff sergeant, like I'm the boss kind of thing. And I said, oh, I haven't worn my uniform. I don't really know what I'm doing. And I got the biggest eye roll from him. And I think, honestly, the eye roll was more about him going, okay, I get to train this guy. And so we really bonded, I would say, over the next year. It's good to bond at 2 a.m. when somebody's in a cell calling for their mom. You have lots of good conversations. I also am glad to know that when he asked me to go in the cell first, that's like a trait that he learned from the beginning. So. And I also thought that the pranks that he would play on me was a personal thing between the two of us. Obviously it wasn't. That's thrown out the window. But in all seriousness, I know you said that you don't know us in the RCMP, but I can tell you from many conversations, I know a lot about all of you, in good and bad. And I just, he had a really important job with us in the RCMP, and I'd just like to thank all of you on behalf of the RCMP for sharing him with us. 2 a.m. is a hard shift to do, and every time I went down there, he had a big smile on his face, so I appreciate that. So thank you very much.
Mikey. Hello. I have my watch set at 8-second timer here, so it doesn't go past 10 seconds. My name's Tommy. I just want to say my condolences to the family. I met Mike in I met Mike in 1989, September of 1989, and I have a couple of stories to share. I walked into a classroom in the academy for training for corrections, and I was sitting in a classroom, 20-something years old, and he was at the front of the class, and he was teaching us the self-contained breathing apparatus, and there was a couple of cases in the back of the room, and I was pretty nervous, and he was in the front of the class, and he said, before I get going, I want everybody to come to the back of the class. And everybody got up and walked to the back of the class, and he said, we need to do this before we start. And he opened up the cases, and inside the cases were donuts. And I know that's a funny story, but that right there solidified Mike to me. It was more important to him to get to know people first before he started the training and get down to business. He wanted to be their friend. And he was always there for me. He was there in my wedding. He was there when I moved. He was there when I moved out of provincial and went to federal. He welcomed me when I came back to provincial. One of the other stories I wanted to share is that him and I would always go camping, and like many of you, I loved all the stories that I heard from everybody else. I don't know how Bob got my speech and all the stuff that I wrote, but thanks, Bob. So we're camping in Whistler, in the middle of Whistler one time, and we're in a tent. It's a big tent. And we're mountain biking and having a lot of fun, and we're sitting around the fire at night, and we decide it's time to go to bed. So we go to turn in, and we're chatting for a little bit, and it gets quiet, and all of a sudden we hear some rustling outside. And I'm like, what the heck is that? The rustling gets a little closer, and now I can hear some breathing. Well, it turns out to be a bear. And I am petrified. I'm sitting up, looking at Mike, going like, what do we do? And he goes, I got this. And we're sitting up, and the bear comes up, and he's kind of nuzzling the tent. His nose is up against the tent. And I'm like, I am petrified. I want to cut a hole in the other side of the tent and run out. And he's like, I got this, I got this. So next time the bear comes up to the tent, he punches it in the nose. I'm like, we're both dead. This is the best part. He looks at me and he goes, good night. He lays down and goes to sleep. And I learned how to cuddle a man that night. I kid you not. I was terrified. So Mike was a mentor to me, a good friend. I always loved chatting with him. Even when I moved away, he was always there, always on the phone, always had good advice. I loved him. There's no other way to put it. I'll leave you with this. One of the best memories I have of Mike is when he came down to Las Vegas, and I took him out on a ride-along. And we were out going around doing stuff, and I stopped my patrol car on the side of the road close to Fremont Street, and I said, get out. And he was like, what do you mean get out? I was like, get out. So he got out, and I went around the other side of the car, and I said, put your hands behind your back. And he was like, what? So I basically pretended that I was arresting him in front of everybody in Las Vegas. I don't know if he ever forgave me for that, but I did it. So I really like seeing everybody here, and I really enjoyed hearing all the stories, and I love the fact that so many people have so many stories of him, and he's just such a common denominator with everybody, and such a good friend. I love you, Mikey.
Good afternoon. I met Mike at least 2 years ago, and as we started to talk, we realized that we had a lot of common regarding the state of the world today, and in particular, our own community. As we spoke, we realized that we are so lucky that our family members felt the same way too. We exchanged contact information, and as it happened, Mike and Sherry did contact me, so we ended up forming a friendship that, because of our common bonds, became tight and supportive to each other. My first thought upon hearing of Mike passing was how that big, happy, and active man could be gone. I was really in shock when I found out that he had passed. He was so full of life, always smiling, always kind, always thinking of others, sure to put others' comfort and need first before his own. There is a group of us today who stand for freedom, peace, justice, and our precious children and youths, our next generations to come. We all were affected by Mike in big way and in our own small ways. Hope to give back to just a fraction of his great spirit to all who knew him. We all here not all only to share our sadness with everyone present, and especially his family, but also the blessing he was to everyone he met and to all who knew him, because he will always be deep in our hearts and everyone else's who was lucky to have met him. Mike, we expect you to stand with us on every rally. May your happy memories give you peace and comfort during this challenging time. May God bless you all. Thank you.
I don't have that much to say, but it's so nice to see all these people, and such a lucky guy to have him as part of my life. You know, we always kind of grew up thinking that we had a ninja for an uncle, and I love you to death, Dad, but when all the little boys would say, oh, my dad could beat up your dad, well, my uncle could beat up all your dads. And that's just kind of how he lived. He was always larger than life, and he's going to be missed a lot. And, you know, with the friends and partners and wives and all the people that joined the family, if you could pass the Uncle Mike test, you knew that they were good. They were a good fit, because he would get you, he'd bug you, he'd tease you, but you knew that he loved you because he did that. As soon as he's nice to you, well, I don't know if you're going to work out. And, you know, that's just how he was, right? And I'm going to miss him a lot, and I'm glad everybody could be here. So thank you.
Well, it's not my proudest moment. Hi, I'm Dave. I used to work with Mike in Fraser. I tend to project. I'm a stage actor, but sorry. Okay. I worked with Dave. Mike is the first time I met him. They were taking in inmate TVs. They brought them all into records. And I was a runner, and I showed up I went, wow, look at all these TVs. It's amazing. And Mike looks at me and goes, yeah, we're selling them. And I went, you're selling them? And he goes, yeah, we can't use them. The inmates can't have them, so we're selling them. I said, wow, how much? He goes, they're $100 a piece. And I'm going, that's not bad. Put me down for 2. And he goes, okay. 2? Yeah, 2. Because like they're $100 a piece, you can get like 5. And I went, no, just 2. I only need 2. He goes, okay. I said, do you take cash? Check? What do you do? And he goes, no, cash is good. I said, okay, I'll get you tomorrow. He goes, okay. I come back tomorrow. He never let me off the hook, by the way. He never let me off the hook. I come in and I got $200 on me. I think he thought I was smarter than I was because he didn't realize I was still being strung along with this. And I'm like, $200, okay, I got the cash. And he looks at me kind of cockeyed and he goes, dude, I was kidding. We're just tagging him and giving him back. And that was Mike. I'm glad to say that I am one of the victims of his awesome pranks. Mike's always been one of us. Even when he was a supervisor, he wasn't a supervisor. The last conversation I had with him, I phoned him a few years ago and I was my typical whiny, snivelly self about my problems. Yeah. And he tells me, and I talked to him about the time that he moved to Surrey pretrial and how that affected him. And he's given me the advice that, yeah, he was bitter, he was upset, but he didn't let it ruin him. And that I should do the same. And Mike lives with me to this day, and he'll live with me to the day to the day I die. And I will make sure that I try to keep Mike alive through his suggestions, what he taught me, so I try to teach those that come before me. So thank you all for coming. This is amazing. My goodness. When you sit back there, you don't see as many. You sit up here, thank God I work in I do stage acting, so this is not too bad. Thanks, guys.
One more? Sure.
I'm quite old.
You're not that old.
Yeah.
28 isn't bad.
I got old. But I just want to be able to say that I love Mike Smart. Sherry knows I love Mike Smart. I came from Burnaby Correction Center to Surrey pretrial, and the first time that I went down to records, I was going to be working in the sentence management area with the women that had been transferred in. And right from the get-go, Mike was there for me. I thought Mike had always been there. Little did I know, he'd only arrived there 2 weeks before me. I felt like he was the angel that came before me to make things better for me. And the time that I spent with him was so beautiful, and just to be loved by him and being able to meet his family and how do you say Kiana? Kiana, when Kiana was born, and he was just so thrilled. He just loves her to the moon and back. And we would get together at the park, or we had the privilege of having them at my place for a meal. But we stayed together, and I didn't send him a Christmas card this year. I bought 2 great big packages from Costco. Never got any of them sent. I gave them away, but I didn't get any of them sent. So I phoned Mike on January 1st, and I said, Happy New Year. And he said, we didn't get a card from you. I said, I know, that's why I'm phoning you, because I didn't get my card sent. I said, I got your card. He said, oh, that was Sherry. I said, that was the first card I got. But I just had to get up here and say, love that guy. I just love that guy. Bless you, family. Love you too.
I'm just a friend. I had a privilege of knowing Mike through grantees. Some of you heard. I was the caregiver for Nikki Smart. And we all have a mission, and Nikki had a mission. And one of the things, all I hear was the family. And I come from Nepal, and family is very much valued. And one of the memories that I have for Mike and the family is Christmas Eve. They would bring grandmas, grandchildren, sons and daughter, and come with this huge turkey and put on an island and says, John, this is a family tradition. And that was my very first, and then I was thinking, oh God, this licensing, this raw turkey on the counter, because the licensing officer can show up anytime. And I was kind of worried, and then Shirley, my manager, is kind of like, so just don't fret, okay? Turkey's there, they're taken care of, they're just uses help and just, and then I often wondered, did Mike ever went to Nepal? He would have been a great trekker, up in the mountain. I remember him coming through that door. John, we're here as usual. And that's sometime Nikki couldn't be in a home, but the family coming home, that's connected me from this part of the world all the way to Nepal. And I wanted to say thank you.
I see no others. 7, 8. If you have more stories, you're welcome to share them. Share them with the family when you get a chance. And I say this frequently in gatherings like this, your story is important. Maybe not today, but your story is important. Share it. Tell a story next week, next month, next year. But that story brings a life back. It just brings a moment. It brings a fresh connection. It just brings something of value and warmth in the heart. So when you have opportunity, share your story. Be part of it. Right now we're going to watch some slides and see more of the life of Mike.
I will remember you. Will you remember me? Don't let your life pass you by. Weep not there was a darkness, a deep and endless night. You gave me everything you had, oh, you gave me life. And I will remember you. Will you remember me? Don't let your life pass you by. Weep not for the memories. I will remember you. Will you remember me? Don't let your life pass you by. Weep not for the memories. Weep not for the memories.
Well, we learned a lot about Mike today, and some other things, like watch out for unmarked cars at the end of the driveway when we're done, because he knows all about you. I know I'm going to put a lock on a sleeping bag if I'm in it, if Steve's around. That's good stories about Mike. Good to hear, good to understand a little bit. But a man that I never got to go camping with, never got to do things with. An amazing man. The verse that you have put in your folder. I fought the good fight, I have finished the race, I have kept the faith. Henceforth there's laid up for me the crown of righteousness, which is the Lord, the righteous judge, will award to me on that day, and not only to me, but also to those who've loved his appearing. Good verse for Mike. I fought the good fight. And we have to remember that it is a battle. Life is a constant work, a constant battle. And Mike's weapons weren't with things that would tear down and break and hurt. He used a lot of weapons that built, that brought people together, that shared love and care and respect. He fought the fight in order to build and in order to win. There's moments in life where people have to approach evil in ways that is met with force. But in life, we meet a lot of people that just need a hug in the cell, right? They just need that moment. They just need that opportunity. We attempt often to be in control, but by being here today, we know we are not in control. This is not the right time for this. Mike wasn't in control of the battle, but he lived the battle anyway. He fought the fight, and he lived it as best he could. We can get caught in skirmishes and these little hand-to-hand combats, but we will find it easy to be disoriented or discouraged or just down. But a guy like Mike Piers would step into people's life and would just help them up. And that's what we can do in this battle. Life is a battle. I have fought the good fight. I have finished the race. And it's not a competition, as many people seem to feel a competition might be. We're not running to get to the end of this race. We're running this race to be in it. And we're not here to gather toys or influence or brownie points. Those aren't the goals in life. Our goal in life is to be that person that enters into lives and helps them step up. This race is a course in front of us. There's a goal in the course. And at the end of the course, there is a goal in mind. But it's not all there is. The goal is today. Who can I help? Who can I be? How can I build? How can I grow? Learning to live to achieve your goal is important. Mike wanted to achieve his goals. I hear this in the stories all the time. Fun, yeah, family, friends, and freedom. Those were his goals. It's about faith. I've kept the faith, and because of the faith, there's this crown of righteousness which the Lord will give. It's about faith. We put faith in many things in life. We can put faith in people. Often it gets hurt, sometimes damaged, sometimes destroyed, but we can put faith in people around us. We can put faith in things, and they will satisfy for a time. We can put faith in the fact that I am expecting my next breath. Aren't we all? But maybe that will, and maybe that won't. The faith that Paul talks about in this verse with his dear friend, as Paul's life is coming very close to the end, as he is now seeing the final straight on his course. And he's talking to his dear friend, this one whom he has mentored for the past years. To him, this faith is outside of ourselves in the one who is eternal and worthy of faith, the one who can be trusted, the one who can hold, the one who will continue us on into eternity with that crown of righteousness. Paul met that one. He met Jesus in a life-changing way while trying to be a righteous person. He's trying to do what he thought was good in a very brutal way. He was a very rules-oriented man. And he learned he needed the God who would throw him to the ground in order to be the person who could stand and live in the right way. This is who Paul was putting his faith in. This verse 8 talks about the result. We often say reward, and the Bible calls it a reward to us, but it's at a more basic level, it's just a gift. I've been given a gift, a recognition that we have endured by faith and have entered a realm of ultimate fulfillment, a gift. A reward, I can't do enough to earn that reward. None of us can. Mike didn't do enough to earn it, but he got a gift from the one who hands out gifts, who says, this is for you, for your faith. That's what this is about. Very shortly here, we're going to close. We're going to have a ceremony with the honor guard that's around us. I'd just like to pause for a moment in prayer here, and then we'll have BC Corrections Honor Guard perform a ceremony for us. Father, thank you. Thank you that we have this truth. We are in this good fight. We are in this good race. We are in this opportunity to keep a faith. And Father, I just pray that you can help us to do that in ways that are similar to what Mike just did here, what we just heard about here, that we gave it our best. We built people up. We helped people around us. But in the end, Father, to turn to you and say, it's for you. This is for you. Thank you, Father, for this great grace through Jesus Christ. Amen. Honor guard, please. we'll be dismissed in a very few moments here. You're all invited to come downstairs to join the family for a time of refreshments. Just before we go, let me read for you benediction that God gave to Moses to give to Aaron, so that Aaron could give to the people a benediction of God's service for us, a benediction for the future, a benediction for each of us. May the Lord bless you and keep you. May the Lord make his face to shine upon you and be gracious to you. The Lord lift up his countenance upon you and give you peace. God bless you.